Hey, this is Alex Albrand. Welcome back to my channel. On today's interview, I'm speaking with Brent Carlson. He's an amazing guy. You're going to love hearing his story, how he founded his firm, Corporate Capital, grew it, and we actually know Christy Van. So if you're a Christy Van, fantastic finance fan, you'll love this interview. And if you love business or if you love finance or a lot of the other things we'll talk about, make sure to watch the whole video, like and subscribe. And Brent, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Alex. I always love these opportunities, and you mentioned the name there. One of my favorite people, Christy Van, just a great lady. I actually met her about a year and a half ago at an event in Charlotte, North Carolina, and our relationship really took off from there. So thanks for having me, and it's nice to meet you through her.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And so corporate capital, and I'm very impressed how I'll give you some hype how, when I first researched Brent, because like he's saying, I kind of saw him through Christie and, I was doing my research. I'm like, man, like his firm, they do everything. Everybody knows that usually CPAs or people that are involved with taxes, they focus on just that. They don't focus on business formation, asset protection, and you guys seem to do everything, but if you could go to the beginning, how did you get involved in this industry? How did you start? And then we can go from there.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I graduated. This is my jersey from BYU. So I played college football at BYU and always thought I'd follow my dad's footsteps because he played there as well. Matter of fact, that's his plaque there and mine from playing in the 70s and early 2000s. And to be honest, Alex, I thought I would always go into the pharmaceutical industry and do what he did. But after college is kind of where me wanting to be exactly like my dad stopped. And I realized that there was an opportunity. My sister was in the financial world and she was helping business owners at a young age help set up their businesses properly. And she was talking about the excitement, how much she enjoyed doing that and being able to help and watch their businesses grow. And I decided that I wanted to jump in. So I was hired by Merck, actually, pharmaceutical company out of college, and I decided to stay in this industry. And I started working for a company in 2005 and became their general manager and just really learned the business. And when the owners I worked for decided to retire, we started our own company in 2013. Matter of fact, 6 days, we'll be celebrating our 12-year anniversary, December 1st, 2013. My wife and I and a couple partners decided to take that entrepreneur leap, and we wanted to work for ourselves and own our own business, and here we are.
Love it. And so how old were you when you started? Because I have a follow-up question, but how old were you when you started in 2013?
So I'm 45 now, so I was roughly 32, 33 years old when I started the company, and it was fun. I mean, the first couple of years, like any entrepreneur, any business owner, I'm sure some of you are very successful watching this. It's a roller coaster at the beginning, but it was fun. And once we got past that roller coaster, we just really started focusing on growth and tax planning, some of the fun stuff we do, which we'll get into, I'm sure.
Absolutely. No, I figured it was around that age range because, I started my business when I was 18 years old. You started when you were 32, 33. And I get a lot of people that want to work with me. They watch my videos or they email me and they're in a similar position. I mean, I'm sure you had a wife, maybe you had kids at that point, or you had obligations nonetheless. You might have had a mortgage. And I feel like people want to take the leap. They want to become an entrepreneur, but if they're in that position, they feel like they have so much responsibility. And obviously, if they fail, their entire family fails. Whereas me as a young guy, 18, I'm like, personal guarantee, like I have nothing in my name anyway. So like, it doesn't matter. But when you have a house and you have a family and you have real obligations, you're like, oof, maybe I should stick with the stable job. I have the health insurance. I have the 401k. I'm only going to retire in, 30 years or something. And I'll be able to live free. But what mindset shift did you have to go through to say, honey, I know this is maybe going to be scary. It's going to be a roller coaster, but we have to do this and stay with it, not just do it for a year and, okay, no, let me go back to the job. You stuck with it for over a decade. So what were some of those conversations, or what was that mindset shift in the beginning from employee to then entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you have to be a business owner and you have to put in the hours. I like to share my story, and it's interesting you asked that question because when I first started this company, I was a business owner. So I thought, okay, I own corporate capital and I've had all this success as a general manager for another organization. And so now that I own a company that was doing 6, 7 million a year, we should just be fine. I'm the owner, the money's going to come rolling in, and that's not the way it works. You know, when you start a company, you have to be the hardest working employee. And I learned that, and my partner, we sat down a year or two into it and said, listen, we have a heck of an opportunity here. And even with guidance that I received from my partner to say, listen, this is what I need you to focus on, kind of the growth, the relationships of the company, and I'll handle all the back end, the accounting, the tax, all the planning. So he gave me a sign that's right here in my office that says 97% who quit are employed by the 3% that never gave up. So that's exactly in conjunction with what you're talking about, Alex, is having the fortitude and putting in the effort. I remember when I went on vacation I think about a year into the business, you asked if I had kids. At that time, I had 3 of my 4 boys when I started the company. We're on our way to Disneyland, and my partner called and said, just so you know, our checks are going to clear Wednesday. And at that point in time, I put everything into the business. We're just up and running. And that was a tough call. We got through the few days, but I never quit. And that's the type of clients we like working with. You start at 18 years old. It just is so motivating because the financial freedom that you're going to have and some of the things that you can do when you take that risk and get away from that comfort. I know having the 8 to 5 and good insurance, but if you have that opportunity and you want to live that American dream, then be part of that 3% that never gave up would be my advice. And that's why I keep this sign in my office every day and look at it before I start my day.
I love that. And like you're saying, the kids are excited for Disneyland. And you're like, when they're on a ride or something, you're like, honey, okay, so we have like 4 days where we have like $0, just so
Yeah,
you know, or something like that.
1 churro per kid today instead of usually 4 or 5, because Disneyland does have the best churros in the country.
But that's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody loves to talk about, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, 40 years. And yet it looks like the best, easiest decision at that point to become an entrepreneur. And that's why I like having different guests with different backgrounds. Some people start their own business like young, or I have some people like Christy Van. She started when she was 54 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So it's amazing
great.
but I think that no matter the age, as you mentioned, it's all still applicable. Like you can't work 9 to 5 initially because you never want to feel like, because failure is always an option. Obviously we want to win, we want to push forward, but you have to, at the end of the day, go to bed thinking, I've done everything I possibly can with my skin, my blood, my flesh, like as a human being, with my time, with my resourcefulness, with my creativity. I've done everything I can to get this business 0.1% better today. And as long as you do that, even when you're struggling, not if, but for anybody watching, when you're struggling or when you're figuring things out, then you're going to feel okay. It's going to make you feel a little better because you're like, I'm doing everything I can. And like you're saying, it's either you quit or you win. There's really no middle ground. And if you keep pushing through, people figure out the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing that I personally do for myself, my partners, and then with my clients is just really look at, those types of planning and what needs to be done at the beginning. What type of business are you starting with? How are you starting it? There's so many opportunities, but the main thing is just take that chance. A lot of you watching this are probably W-2. I was W-2 for a long, long time. That fear the first couple of years was scary. And 12 years later, it's a completely different situation. You try to, come up with different scenarios. You're able to do things with your family, the financial freedom, policies, investments, things that you can do now because you have that financial freedom as opposed to getting that steady paycheck and maybe a little bonus at the end of the year. You start getting $100,000 to $300,000 bonuses. I mean, that could be life changing. Again, regardless of what your portfolio looks like, there's a lot you can do with that. And so I get excited about that to help business owners, entrepreneurs grow their portfolio so they really feel good and have that peace of mind like you're talking about, Alex.
Absolutely. And to tie into that in terms of what you're doing today,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's different levels of clients you work with. As you mentioned, somebody that has an idea and they want to get the right LLC and get the right structure. And then there's people with many millions and much success that want to protect it, that want to do the right things. But what's the number one commonality of working with probably thousands of business owners? What's the number one commonality you've seen with the most successful, or you see somebody starting out and you're like, man, this guy's going to be successful because he has, X, Y, or Z. So what's that, whether it's a trait or a mindset or how they speak, what are some of the commonalities that you see, and anybody at any level that is a success or is going to be a success?
Well, honestly, the organization is really, really important. I think you have to have a certain personality to be successful. I think you have to be organized. You have to have that drive. I mean, it starts right then. And then before you take that next step, or you make that first investment, or you start that marketing business or whatever you're doing, make sure that you are structured properly. Because if you're structured properly, now you're going to make sure, I like to call it like a brick wall. It's like a brick wall between your business life and your personal life. And by having the proper structure and having that work ethic, now you can build a brand, you can build a business, and do everything within the realms of a company. And so now you're not putting Alex or Brent Carlson at risk for this entrepreneur mindset you have in these investments, or, whatever you guys are into, rental properties. I have clients all the time that call me that have accidents on rental properties. So it's just making sure that they're structured properly once they have that idea, once they're making money, that now, okay, let's make sure you're structured, make sure you're protected, number one. And what comes with that? A few things. You build a brand, right? Now you have a brand. More importantly, though, and the number one concern of my clients is money. They're making a lot of it. So they want to do as much tax planning as possible. So with proper structuring, sometimes with layered structuring, we're able to put our clients in a position where December 31st at midnight, they know that they have done everything they can, from advanced tax planning, tax mitigation, Augusta rule, paying the kids, whatever they qualify for, that is being implemented. And that is what is really on our clients' mind. And the reason why they're successful is because they have that structure or that entity to take advantage of all of these different asset protections and tax savings, as opposed to if you're just a sole proprietorship representing Alex Albaran or Brent Carlson, then we are our business. Therefore, we're personally held responsible. We have no brand. We are the brand. So we are also the target of the lawsuit as well.
Right. And I think that's, a lot of people, when they have an idea, they're like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to get clients and I'm just going to do it. And they would be beneficial if they could speak with somebody like you, because you'd be like, all right, Tiger, so give me like a week and I'll get you the right LLC and the right insurance. And maybe a lot of people coming from a W-2, they might already be doing well. They might be highly compensated. So you're like, hey, you might need an umbrella policy. Like, you have assets and stocks and real estate and 401k, and you're going to start a business. Like, you need to do this the right way. And then, I think
share this with you, Alex, if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind. I tell people this a lot. If you just have an idea, or you're selling something on the side, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to make a lot of money. I don't want to spend the money to set up an LLC or get incorporated. And then I ask them this question: is that side hustle you're doing, those bracelets you're making that a baby can choke on a bracelet or whatever, is that worth your $800,000 home? Is that worth your checking account that has $500,000 in there? So I don't care if people do 5,000, 10,000, or my biggest client that does 90 million. You should be incorporated, whether it's for a rental property, whether it's private lending. Everyone should run through an entity for so many different reasons. And I've only mentioned a few.
100%. No, I think the startup entrepreneur, they're very excited, but they don't realize that half of business is thinking about how do I mitigate my risk. Risk will never be zero as an entrepreneur, but as you're in business and maybe you see peers and other people, you're like, wow, like they just lost their business over that seemingly minor thing and they weren't protected. So yeah, for anybody watching, even if you're an existing entrepreneur, like find ways to mitigate risk because you're already taking a risk by being an entrepreneur, but don't risk your, like Brent's saying, your house or your personal money or your family's money. I mean, it's a different world, especially in the United States, where you can sue easily, but it sucks to get sued. And luckily I've never been in that position, but it's because I research and we know. And again, it's better to be on the safe side entity wise, like Brent's saying, and doing other things. And so is there anything else that people can do as entrepreneurs to protect themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of lawsuits, the United States has some of the most lawsuits in the entire world. I think we have 66% of the practicing lawyers. 95% of the world's lawsuits are filed here in the United States. 35 to 53% of small businesses each year. And then at some point, I think it's 83% will be sued over the course of their lifetime, whether that's for a rental property, a day-to-day business like mine and Alex's. What you can do, and we can get into as much today or maybe for another segment, it's completely up to you, but set up an LLC. The way to protect yourself is by setting up a limited liability company. Now, a lot of people will ask, what's the difference between an LLC and a corporation? A corporation is typically really good if you're looking to go public or you have foreign investors, but 99 out of 100 entities that we set up here, we set them up as a limited liability company. Now, we focus on 2 states primarily for asset protection purposes, and there's also no tax is in those states. So there's no corporate tax, there's no personal tax. So by headquartering our clients in certain states, we're able to protect them. And these states, Alex, have statutes that clearly state that if a business gets sued, they can't sue you personally. So here in Nevada, for example, that is one of those states where you can't sue the entity and the business owner. So like corporate capital, we have Corporate Capital Inc., taxed as an S corporation to save the 15.3%. That's another conversation. We have Mac Holdings LLC that owns the building that we have. Then we also do reviews and audits. Those have a lot more liability than other services. So we have 3 different entities for that. So if someone comes in and slips and falls, Alex, in my conference room, they can't sue my multi-million-dollar corporation. If something's done wrong with a living trust or an LLC, they can't go after my building. They can't go after my audit and review. If I do an audit or a review that messes up, knock on wood, 12 years, I haven't had either. But if something were to happen, they're all completely legally separated. So for those of you who have rental properties, you might not have ever thought to yourself, or maybe you have and just haven't done anything with it. Like, it's not that you're trying to create a business for those rental properties necessarily, but there can be some tax advantages for you. But now you're just separating those specific properties. So as an example, if you have 4 rental properties that are all in your name, if they sue you personally, you're going to have to list all of those assets. Now, hopefully your insurance or whatever happens covers it, but I've been in this business 20 years. I share stories all the time. My client in Louisiana, who was a sole prop that had a ladder fall off the back of his truck. He lost everything, literally everything, Alex. So by having the LLC, when you ask what can they do, just by putting those 3 little letters at the end of a name for an investment or for a business like you and I have, it protects you and it gives you the flexibility to take advantage of the IRS tax code, the state laws, the compliance. But we don't have that as an independent contractor, sole proprietorship.
I love this. No, I love talking about this because I'm just always fascinated in this and I always love researching it, but it's great to talk to an expert. And, I think it's something where people, when they start a business, they are a little cheap because obviously they're not bringing in revenue yet. So they're like, ooh, but maybe I'll do it on my own, or I'll write my own operating agreement or my own minutes or whatever the case may be. And it's like lawyers, experts, like people like that. The term is that they're expensive, but they'll save you a fortune, right? People like you, people like the right attorneys that will set you up right. It's not cheap. Nobody would ever say, oh, this is a cheap thing to do, but it's cost effective. And again, it could save somebody a fortune at the end of the day.
Yeah, and a lot of times when people form it on their own, teach their own. I mean, it's okay, but what you don't want to have happen is you don't want to be considered an alter ego. Because if you're an alter ego, you formed it on your own, save some money. Now, when they go to sue the corporation, if you don't have proper meeting minutes or if it's not set up properly, it's not like they pierce the corporate veil. They just set it aside and go after you personally. So because you were never set up like a true corporation, you don't have meeting minutes. So I'm glad you brought that up, Alex, because I wasn't going to show this, but I keep on my desk here for any time I do something like this. This is a record book that we put together for clients that everyone should have. So this is the corporate seal. So every company should have a corporate seal. So this makes the stock certificates legit. You have the minutes, you have the articles, you have the minutes, operating agreement. And then more importantly, we have these membership certificates. So this is the ownership of the company. So most of my clients will have that owned by their estate. So like my stock of all those entities that I mentioned, including the Carlson family circus that I pay my kids through. And I have fun with that because I have 4 boys, 5 dogs. It's a shit show. So the Carlson family circus is the one that pays my kids. And then those stock certificates though in there, I have issued to my trust. So now if something happens to me, all of this building, this business, all goes to my family and to my estate, which is another conversation for us. One thing I do want to mention briefly though, and we can talk about as much as you want, or perhaps, have another session, but I do want people that are looking take this step, that are looking to incorporate, just spend a little bit of time. Everyone has social media. You're probably getting flooded with Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware. Those are Nevada and Wyoming are the 2 states that we set up probably 98 of the 1,000 LLCs a year. So there's reasons that we do that. And again, it goes back to there's just no taxes there. So we don't have to worry about that. But those states, as entrepreneurs, Alex, you're a young entrepreneur. I'm in the middle of my career. But I know that if I ever get sued personally, they can't ever touch all my other assets. They can't go after my family vehicles, any of that, because of proper structuring and estate planning.
And you can't put a price on peace of mind, ultimately,
No.
especially as somebody grows their business. You would think that people would want to celebrate your success. But I mean, unfortunately, as you become more successful, people, they look at you and they're like, I don't know. And, America, like you're saying, it's the best country in the world, but there's the most lawyers. And people love to see someone rise and then be like, let me turn them down, or let me sue them for some nonsense. It's unfortunate, but again, it's the reality, because nobody is coming to save you if you don't properly entity your business and somebody sues you. Like, there's nobody to call. It's on you to figure it out. For anybody watching, I love this. I think we could do like 5 different interviews on just taxes alone, just real estate, just wealth building. It's amazing.
Yeah, I would love to, and I think your audience, but would really benefit if we focused on a couple topics.
Mm-hmm.
But I call it the 2 L's: the lottery and lawsuit. That's the fastest way for people to get rich, besides the 97% who quit that are employed by us. I've called it 2 L's for my 20-year career. After graduating from BYU, this is my jersey there I was showing you earlier. Played a little football, got in the pharmaceutical industry, and was hired by Merck. And this is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to call on doctors. I like people. I like coaching. I coach my kids. I like coaching my clients. I like seeing that success. And as you know, through your clients, the more successful they are, the more successful you are. And the more word of mouth, meeting you through someone like Christy Van and the Chris Noggles of the world, the people that I work with, that I've had the opportunity to assist their clients with structuring and taxes and estate planning. And again, Alex and I will get into some of those topics, but to give you kind of a full synopsis of what we do, we're a full service incorporating, bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and asset protection firm. So we help set up corporations and LLCs. We have done them in all 50 states. We also help with bookkeeping and tax. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up briefly is we're coming into the end of the year. So those of you that are following Alex and that are really trying to do everything you can, have that peace of mind, you should be getting with your CPA or accountant before the end of the year and look to see what tax planning strategies can you implement before December 31st. So if you are in that category where you show a big profit at the end of the year, there are things like paying your children, the Augusta rule. There's some advanced tax planning options available to you. So we'd like to look at all of that. And then ultimately, Alex, once we know that their business is in place and they're on this trajectory, then we need to make sure that this business, this record book and the bank accounts and the home and all the other assets are inside of their living trust. So we finish it all up with estate planning for our clients as well. So I just wanted them to get a good idea of everything that we do. Obviously, we can talk about some of those topics specifically, but we are a one-stop shop. And that was my vision, back in 2013. My wife and I sat down and said, let's just be a one-stop shop. So business owners don't have to call their bookkeeper and then their CPA and then their attorney. We have all that here at Corporate Capital. So thank you for letting me share that.
I love this. No, you're the man. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to make sure I have a link down below for anybody that might be able to reach out to Brent, maybe have a conversation. He's a really busy guy, but maybe his firm can help you out before the end of the year, something like that. And of course, on many other things aside from tax planning as well. But no, Brent, where can people find you on Instagram, YouTube, or your website?
Yeah, so our website is www.corpcapinc.com, so corpcapinc.com. I have a bunch of videos on there, different videos I've done over the years about the different services, just educational videos. Emails I'd like to provide for everyone are the Jocelyn, so Jocelyn, Jocelyn at corpcapinc.com, and then Taylor, Tay, Taylor at corpcapinc.com. They're both my personal assistants, office managers. I work with Christy Van's students. I work with Chris Nagel's students. When they personally refer me people over, I take the time. Same thing I just decided to do with Alex. I love the young entrepreneur in him. I love the clients I've had opportunity to meet. And so anyone that contacts, instead of just calling our general number, you can. The general number is 702-623-2500. But just, again, 702-623-2500. And if you do call, just hit extension 0 and ask for Taylor or Jocelyn and tell them that you want to speak with me. And I will personally do the consultation. One thing, Alex, that I've really taken pride in is we don't bill by the hour. If we're not the right fit, hey, not everyone's the right fit. So there's really no strings attached. It's just more of a diagnosis. We'll set aside 45 minutes. I'll personally do the consultation, answer your questions. And if an LLC or some tax planning makes sense, great. If not, maybe I can be a part of your circle like with Alex. And again, it's all about networking and promoting yourself. And however you can do that, the best way to grow your business, I want to be there in whatever capacity.
Love it. And I'll put like you mentioned, the emails and the links, everything down below. But Brent, this will be the first of many. This was great. And I think it's much needed because I talk about just start your business and start getting clients and let's go make some money and help some people. But it's good to be all right, let's slow down a little bit in the beginning. I got to send you to Brent. So before we do all of that. So no, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll do it again, and have a great night. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Alex. Thank you. I look forward to the next one.
Likewise. Thank you.